There we go. Actually, show the little ones first. I was. So these are all pictures of my past. But for a long time, and we were watching our wedding video last night, and my brother in his speech, as my best man, he was like, you know, Melly, you did what nobody else could do. Because for 13 years, people would tell me and ask me, just grow your hair out, just grow your hair out. Dude, you have hair, grow it out, grow it out. And it was usually people with receding hairlines that would tell me, just grow your hair out. And I'm like, well, you're not, so why should I know? And so people always said, grow your hair out, grow your hair out. And then one day, I started dating this girl named Melly. And she said, hey, why don't you grow your hair out? And I said, if you want to, I will. You know. And then another day, she was like, I think you should grow your hair out. And then 13 years of a firm stance came crumbling down at the request of a beautiful woman. And I said, yeah, I'll grow my hair out. And I went through all these crazy phases of my hair. I mean, if you guys look back at some of the pictures and videos, it's like, what was going on there, man? I'm not sure. But we're hopefully getting better at it. We'll see. But now I have a hair roll. That's a big part of my life because people used to know me as Bald David. Yeah. Bald David, you know, Bald David. And now I have hair, and so when I see people that I haven't seen in a long time, they're like, whoa, what's going on here, man? Still figuring it out, I don't know. But Samson is known also for the world's most famous haircut. You know, when we think of Samson, oh, the guy that got his hair cut, the guy with the long hair, he's a strong guy, yeah, and he lost it because of his hair, right? This is how we know Samson. And like in my case, at the request of a woman, unlike growing his hair out, his hair went away. He was actually shaved. And so I want to share some things this morning with the life of Samson. And here's my dilemma that I think we're all facing this morning. By nature, we are prone to drift. We're drifters, but our hearts are drifters. The Bible says in Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9, I believe that it says, our hearts are desperately wicked and beyond cure. Who can understand them? Who can know them? Our hearts are always wondering after something else. There's a reason why there's so much infidelity in our nation today, why cheating is so common. There's a reason why people will jump from one thing to another, jumping in hobbies. Why? Because our hearts are never satisfied and we're constantly drifting. Our nature is to drift. Now here's the dilemma though. You could be drifting towards God, intentionally paddling and rowing, or you could be drifting away from God. About, I would say like a month ago, Ramon, Chewy, and I went on a little fishing expedition where we caught many, many fish. Or maybe just one fish. But there was great potential that day. And we decided to rent a boat. So we all pitched in, we got a little boat. We went out to the Los Vaqueros off of Vasco. And we went out into further than any other boats. We were out there, man. And so, hey, let's drop anchor here. Seems like a good spot. And we would drop anchor. The problem was that the anchors that we had on the boat didn't reach the bottom of the lake. And so we would find ourselves like, this is a good spot. Let's do it. All right. Drop anchor. We all cast out. And then, maybe like 2 minutes later, I'd be like, guys, we're facing the opposite direction. What's going on? We just kept on drifting. Every place we stopped, we kept on drifting. Our boat would start like drifting in circles, and then our lines would start getting tangled. Like, oh, bring it over. Like, it was just a lot of drifting going on. We, by nature, are drifters. And if you think about your life, think about how many things you go after, and then you get tired of pretty quickly. And then we watch another Netflix show, and we get tired, and we watch another one, we get tired. We are in this relationship, and then we drift into the next one, and we're just drifting and drifting. Truly, our hearts are desperately wicked. Who could know them? Who could cure them? And so we see this not only in our lives, but in the life of Samson, that all along we've seen nothing but mistakes out of this man who was supposed to have a vow in his life, a Nazarene vow. If you guys remember what the Nazarite vow was, that, look, you are separated to God, and unlike any other people who make a Nazarite vow for a season, look, I'm going to dedicate my life to God, for this period of time, I'm making a Nazarite vow. Cool, high five, let's do this, right? Samson, before he was even born, God said on his life would be a Nazarite vow. So his mother, while she was not even pregnant with him, had to start going under the Nazarite vow. And then she gets pregnant, and he comes along. And actually, God would say in the previous chapter, I believe in chapter 15 or 14, that he was going to be a Nazarite until his death. Well, there's an issue, and there's a problem, and there's a tension that happens here. Because the Nazarite vow comprised pretty much of three things, three outward things that would speak of what was going on inwardly. One, you cannot eat or drink anything from the vine. No grapes, no wine. Ricky brought up last time, no raisins, nothing that comes from, not the leaves, nothing from the vine. You cannot eat or drink anything from the vine. Another thing, you cannot touch a dead body. You would become unclean, and you have to go through the whole ritual of getting clean again. You can't touch a dead body. Stay away from it. And the last thing, you cannot cut your hair. At this point in the story, Samson has broken all but one of the Nazarene requirements. He's touched the dead body. Remember, he killed the lion, and then he came back, and there was honey inside of the lion. And then, man, I want the honey, so he opens up the lion, and he gets the honey out. You know, isn't that the picture of what sin is like? You know, we defile ourselves just to get the sweetness, and we think it's worth it, but it's not. And so he defiled himself. He breaks the vow to the Nazarene vow that God had on his life, and he was supposed to be dedicated to God. And then all he's doing is drinking and partying. We see him from here to there, drinking and partying, just breaking the Nazarene vows that he had on his life. Well, the last thing that he hasn't done is to cut his hair yet. And so I want us to pick up our story here, and we're going to go through the chapter here, and we're going to stop here, little brief parts here and there. But there's one thing that I want us to focus on this morning, and it's the thing that has been very heavy in my heart, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. But I want us to realize that Samson, we can look at him, and we can put him up and cast him aside and say, man, that guy was a bad dude. And I think Ricky did a good job last week at saying, as he was preaching up here, we are Samson. That's us. With all our weakness and failures and everything that all messed up, that's us. We all have the capacity to be what he was. And given all the tools and all the gifts and all the talents and everything that we need to succeed, and yet use it all for failure, and instead of getting closer to God, to get away from God. And so I want to present to you the main idea this morning. Not the main point, we'll lead to the main point, but here's the main idea. Sin leads us slowly away from God. I want us to keep this in mind as we go through this chapter. This is the main thing, and this is what broke me this morning, and this is what I felt God saying. You need to turn the boat around, and you need to go in this direction, because not just you, but yes, you too, David, but not just you, but there is a church full of people who are slowly drifting away from God. And too often, we wait until we hit a wall. Too often, we wait until we shipwreck. Too often, we wait until we're so far off on the horizon before we look up and say, hey, I think I lost my way. When in reality, you knew you were losing your way all along. You saw the signs. You saw the signals. You saw the flags coming up. But you didn't care because, you know what, I'm not there yet. I'm still okay. And so the slow drift happens naturally, and we do nothing to stop it. I want to read you a few lyrics out of this song by Casting Crowns. It's called Slow Fade. How many of you guys have heard it? I'm going to sing it this morning. No, I'm just kidding. You got to pay to see that. But some of the words in this song say like this. It's a slow fade when you give yourself away. It's a slow fade when black and white are turned to gray. And thoughts invade, choices are made, and price will be paid when you give yourself away. People never crumble in a day. It's a slow fade. It's a slow fade. The journey from your mind to your hands is shorter than you're thinking. Be careful if you think you stand. You just might be sinking. There really is a slow fade. When Tommy asked me this morning, hey, how was your week? And I said, you know what, up until this morning, I thought it was pretty good. I thought I was good spiritually. And this morning when God said, you know what, it's a slow fade, dude, and you have been fading away. Don't wait until you're shipwrecked before you realize that. Realize it now that you are drifting away and you're not where you should be. And then I analyzed my week all over again, and I said, you know what, it hasn't been a good week. I've been slowly fading away. And I've been excusing it with, you know what, it hasn't been as bad as other weeks. So it's been a good week. But where's the standard? What are we measuring off of? Where's the measuring line? Our worst days? Or righteousness? Jesus Christ, the Word of God, and what it has set out for us. And so it goes on to say here in the first verse of chapter 16, Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute and went to bed with her. Keep in mind, Samson is an Israelite, and he has a calling and an anointing on his life. And the calling and anointing is to begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines who are oppressing them. All right? Philistines are the enemy. They come and they want to take out the Israelites. They've actually been keeping them in oppression for 40 years now, right? And then for 40 years, the Israelites have not fought back. Every other time the Israelites come up under oppression, you see them fight back. they're at a point right now where they don't even care anymore. You know, we'll live like this. We'll make friends of our oppressors. And you see this evidence in the life of Samson, which reflects the whole nation of Israel, because we've seen up to this point, he is very involved with the enemy, but not on hostile terms. Who are Samson's friends? The Philistines. What kind of women does Samson like? The Philistines. You know, when God said, don't go after these women, and it's not that God is trying to make a racial issue here. What he's trying to make is a heart issue. These people do not worship me, and if you go to be with them, you will not worship me either. It's not like I was saying, hey, don't get with the Philistines because, you know, I want to keep the Israelites. No. You go back to the book of Deuteronomy, there's a whole thing about accepting the foreigners that come, and here's how they will worship me also. So it wasn't about race, it was about heart. And Samson didn't realize that, and the nation of Israel didn't realize that. And so he's always very involved with the enemy. He's always in enemy territory, but he's never fighting. The few times that he does have to get violent and act out, they're because of self-reasons. It's not to do the calling that God has on his life to deliver Israel. It's always because of reasons that are arrogant, selfish, and situations that, honestly, he got himself in. It's never because, you know what, let me go out and do the will of the Lord today. Let me actually do what I'm called to do. Let me actually use these tools in my life to do what God has given them to me for. You know what? For a long time, I knew that I was very influential. I knew that I could influence people. I knew I had a way with words. And for a long time, I used that to deceive people, to con people, to backstab people, to manipulate people. That was my life. That's who's talking to you this morning here. And who gave me that gift? God gave me that gift. But I chose what to do with it. And it took me a long time and a lot of wasted time before I realized, man, God, you gave me this. And what am I doing? What has God given you that you're wasting away? What has God given you that you might be using, but just not for him? See, God's gifts in our lives, they could very well be the very thing that is helping us forget about God. You might be so involved. And I've seen it in ministry time after time where people, including myself, get so involved in what they're doing for God that along the way we forget God. We get so involved talking about Jesus and that along the way we forget to talk to Jesus. And so he says here that Samson went to Gaza. What is Gaza? Gaza is the capital city of the Philistines. Now, maybe he went to go fight. Good for you, Samson. But we see that he went to Gaza where he saw a prostitute and went to bed. You see, sin is always going to take you further than you think. Remember the saying? It's going to make you pay more than you're willing to pay. And it's going to make you stay longer than you thought you were going to stay. And Samson went to Gaza and then went to bed with this prostitute. He didn't go to Gaza to fight the enemy. He went to Gaza to fraternize with the enemy. Now I want you to keep something in mind. Samson's home, the tribe of Dan, the furthest point away from that as far as the Philistine territory is Gaza. Samson went the furthest point away he could from his hometown to be with this prostitute, to go to bed with a woman. And this shows you in the physical, in the physical realm, in the external, exactly what was going on in the internal realm. That's how far he had gone away from God. Did he still have gifts that God gave him? Yeah, but do not confuse spiritual gifts for spiritual fruit. You might have spiritual gifts and be able to still use them. As we see Samson, he still has a super strength. He still has his endurance. And we're going to see today, he carries the gates of a city far away. He still has all this stuff. But is he right with God? No. Because we're going to read one of the most saddest verses in the Bible in this chapter. So just because God hasn't taken away your gift doesn't mean you're in good terms with him. There's a difference between spiritual gifts and spiritual fruit. Spiritual fruit is the evidence of our spiritual life. And we see none of that in Samson's life. We see the very exact opposite, the works of the flesh in his life. And so it says Samson went to Gaza, furthest away from God, because this is where spiritually he was, where he saw a prostitute. See, this is where sin enters in. He saw and he wanted. He saw a prostitute and went to bed with her. When the Gazites heard that Samson was there, they surrounded the place and waited in ambush for him. Here's the funny thing. The Philistines were not Samson's friends. They're trying to kill him here. And they've tried to kill him before. But for some reason, Samson still wants to make friends with the Philistines because that's all he hangs out with. See, as soon as they saw him, what did they do? They planned to kill him. As soon as they saw him, he's not their friend. The devil is not your friend. Sin is not your friend. But so many times we want to go and spend time with sin and give in to temptation and provoke temptation. And run away from God and run right into these things. Like if they're going to embrace us, like if they're going to fulfill us, like if they're going to give us any worth or any purpose. How's that working for you? You endeavor at work so much. You gain a lot of money. You get a lot of respect. You have a million friends. How's that working for you? How's that fill the hole in your heart? Because I guarantee you there's something still inside. That's why we have story after story of people who are famous and people who are rich and people who we consider have it all who commit suicide. You know, the anniversary of Robin Williams' suicide just passed a few days ago. That speaks volumes of what's wrong with us. That there's something that cannot satisfy us. And we try to do everything to satisfy it. And God's sitting there alone like, I'm what you need. You need to come home. You know, I think it was Steve Jobs at the end of his life when he realized he wasn't going to make it. He said, you know, I've made a lot of money. I can't take any of it with me. How is this whole chasing after things working out for you? How is this whole running really fast and being really busy working out for you? And so they heard that Samson was there. They did not consider him a friend, although Samson probably would consider them his people. And it says they waited in an ambush for him all that night at the city gate. While they were waiting quietly, they said, let us wait until dawn, then we will kill him. But Samson stayed there in bed until midnight when he got up, took hold of the doors of the city gate, along with the two gate posts, and pulled them out, bar and all. He put them on his shoulders and took them to the top of the mountain overlooking Hebron. What just happened is they locked him in the city. Samson gets up a little earlier than they thought he would. He's like, I'm locked in, no big deal. I'm going to use my power like I've always done before. And so notice what it says here. It doesn't say that the Spirit of the Lord empowered him to do this. Don't think that God has given him a way out of his sin just so he can sin some more. Keep in mind, just like I said, there is a difference between spiritual fruits and spiritual gifts. And Samson has a spiritual gift for now. But it's not God that's saying, all right, you can go ahead and live this lifestyle. It's all right. I'll just wait here for you to come back. He takes the hold of the gates and the posts, just lift them up, and he takes them 40 miles away, uphill, just because they made him mad. Just because, why would you want to entrap me? Well, because they're your enemy, dude. Why can't you see that? It goes on to say in the story, in verse 4, sometime later, all right, maybe he learned his lesson by now. They're not your friends, man. They try to kill you. Sometimes later, he fell in love with a woman named Delilah. Delilah in its original language sounds like the word for darkness or for night, which is where we get our title this morning for our message, Drifting in the Night. Because you're going to see Samson's life start to drift and drift and drift more closely to Delilah and further away from God. Here's something about Samson's life that's been revealed to us that has not been revealed to us yet. Samson could love. But what Samson loves is in the wrong place. It says he fell in love with a woman named Delilah. Up to this point, we have not seen anything that says that he loved God, that he had a heart that was after God. None of that. Everything has been selfish. Everything has been egocentric. And now we see him love, but not God. And quite the opposite, actually. It says sometime later he fell in love with a woman named Delilah who lived in the Sorek Valley, again, enemy territory. The Philistine leaders went to her and said, persuade him to tell you where his great strength comes from so we can overpower him, tie him up, and make him helpless. Each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. Now, before this time, it's been regular Philistines that are mad at Samson and they want to fight him. Never turns out good. We now see that the rulers of the Philistines, the leaders, the mayor and the president and the cabinet and all the rulers came to Delilah. Samson is such a pain in their neck that the rulers came to him. It's ironic because Samson, this is the people he hangs with. And they want to kill him. And it says that they offered to pay her. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where does your great strength come from? How can someone tie you up and make you helpless? Like, she didn't try to disguise it. She was very upfront. What can we do to beat you, right? Here's the thing about sin. Sin is blinding. And some of you guys have been or probably are in situations that people are telling you, what are you doing? Why are you going down that route? What were you thinking? I don't know. In hindsight, everything looks clear. But in the moment, everything was foggy. Why? Because sin is blinding. Sin is a fog that rises up and starts to blind your spiritual perspective. Starts to make you doubt and question God. Maybe God doesn't want the best for me, Adam and Eve said in the garden. Because the temptation started to rise up, because the sin started to brew inside. And so she asked him very plainly, very flat out, what do we do to defeat you? And he either doesn't see it, or he thinks that he's always going to have what it takes to get out of trouble. And quite frankly, Samson likes trouble. He likes getting himself in these predicaments. Why? Because he's slowly drifting away from God. See, he can't see that he's headed towards failure, towards a wreck, because he's not there yet. It's a slow drift. It's a slow fade. And so 3 times she tries to tell him, what do we need? The first time he tells her, you need fresh bowstrings that haven't dried yet. And so she does tie him, and then she tries it out. Hey, the Philistines are here, and he breaks them. At that point, dude, you should walk away from the relationship, okay? This is a word for someone sitting here today. I don't know. You know she is not good for you. Walk away. And she goes on to say after that, he goes on to tell her, you like me. Hold on, I want us to notice something here that I noticed this morning. If they tie me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, says in verse 7, I will become weak and be like any other man. And so they try to do that. Well, the man, let me go down here. In verse 10, then Delilah said to Samson, you have mocked me and told me lies. All right, she realizes, like, you mocked me and told me lies. And so she asks again, and Samson says, well, you have to tie me with new ropes. And again, she does it, and he's wrong. And she tells him again, you have mocked me in verse 13, and mocked me all along and told me lies. Tell me the truth. So he says, you know what? You actually have to tie my hair into some braids and weave it into some fabric with some loom. And she does it again. And she realizes he lies again. But notice what she says the 3rd time. How can you say, I love you, she told him, when your heart is not with me? See, the first 2 times she was like, you're making a fool of me. You're mocking me. But when she hit close to home, when she was like, you say you love me, well, show me you love me. And see, this is a slow fade of sin. When slowly and slowly we turn away until eventually sin can be like, all right, if we're really a thing, if this is really serious, then you have to show me. And at that point, we're so blind that we're just willing to say, yeah, you know what, I do love sin. I do love this. I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't care if I'm sinning. I don't care if this lifestyle isn't right with God. You ever reached that point in your life where you know you're in sin and you just don't care? Because it's been a slow fade. You didn't get there overnight. You didn't transform overnight. It's been a slow fade until one day you open your eyes and you just don't care. We talked about this a few weeks back. When we care more about the temptation or the sin or the idolatry in our life to where we don't care about God. We have all these other cares, but they're not God. And so how can you say, I love you, dude? You don't love me? And so he says, yeah, I'll tell you the truth. It says in verse 16, because she nagged him day after day and pleaded with him until she wore him out. You know the devil never sleeps. You know the devil never rests. He has all the time in the world to sit and scheme and plan and study you and bring attack after attack after attack after attack after attack. And Delilah got through to Samson. Delilah did what 1,000 Philistines could not do. She just kept poking away, poking away, poking away, poking away. And the sad thing about all this is that he got himself in that situation. Maybe some of you guys and girls are like, man, I don't know why I keep on falling into the lust is such a big deal in my life. Well, maybe you should stop scrolling. Maybe you should stop looking around. Maybe you should stop having wandering eyes. Job said, I've made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a girl. Maybe we should see our brothers and our sisters in Christ as brothers and sisters in Christ. Some of us are like, man, I don't know why I'm always in these situations where I have to go off on people, maybe even nicer, maybe even show some of the fruits of the Spirit, we get ourselves into situations and then wonder, man, why is this temptation coming and coming and coming? You know, temptation sometimes just comes just because. But a lot of times we've called it up. A lot of times we've provoked it. A lot of times we've awoken it. Is that a word, awoken it? Awakened it. And she nagged him until she wore him out. And that's the life verse of many Christians. Where the devil will nag you until he wears you out. It goes to say, well, where are you getting your strength from? If sin has worn you out, if temptation has worn you out, where are you getting your strength from? Because the word tells me, Paul said, that in my weakness, his strength is perfected. I cannot be worn out by the devil. You realize that? The devil can't wear you out. What does the Bible say? No temptation has seized you that is uncommon to man, and God will give you a way out. There is no temptation that can defeat you. Think about that the next time we fall into sin, the next time we run into sin, the next time we fade away and drift into sin, into a lifestyle that is not pleasing to God. What happened was because we allowed it to happen. Because God has given us the tools to stop it. The attacks are going to come, yes. But God will give you the strength to put a stop to it. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. The verse says. And so it goes on to say, he told her the whole truth. In the original language, the whole truth. He pretty much told her his heart. And said to her, my hair has never been cut because I am a Nazarite to God from birth. If I am shaved, my strength will leave me, and I will become weak and be like any other man. When Delilah realized that he had told her the whole truth, she sent this message to the Philistine leaders. Come one more time, for he has told me the whole truth. The Philistine leaders came to her and brought the money with them. Then she let him fall asleep on her lap and called the man to shave off the 7 braids on his head. In this way, she made him helpless, and his strength left him. Then she cried, Samson, the Philistines are here. She did it 3 more times before this. What's going to be different this time? When he awoke from his sleep, he said, I will escape as I did before and shake myself free. Why shouldn't I? And look at that, one of the saddest phrases in all of the Bible. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. See, the sad thing wasn't so much that God left him. The anointing left him. The sad thing was that he didn't even notice. You see, if he was living a better lifestyle and God just pulled away, he would notice, oh, something's different here. God, what's going on? But he did not even notice whether the presence of the Lord was in his life or not. Let me ask you something. If God pulled back from your life, the anointing and the calling and the persuading and the Spirit upon you, would you even notice based on the lifestyle that we have? Samson did not even notice when God pulled away. See, in his idea, the strength that he had and the gifts that he had, they were based on some magical formula. They were based on some way of manipulating the supernatural. If I don't do this and this and this, then I'm okay. And I've broken 2 out of the 3, but as long as I don't break the 3rd, that's where my strength comes from. Just not cutting my hair. The strength never came from cutting his hair. The strength never made from the vow to not cut his hair. The strength made with whom he made the vow to. And once God said, you know what, man? If you don't want to be a part of this, it's okay. You can have what you want. Romans chapter 1 says that one of the most devastating things that can happen to us is God giving us what he wants. He says he gave them over to their evil desires in Romans chapter 1. And that's what happened here. Samson, that's what you want? I'm going to let you have it. But I'm not going to be a part of this. And he did not notice that the Spirit of the Lord left him. So what happened? The Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. They brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles. And he was forced to grind grain in prison. You guys remember a few weeks ago? What was Samson doing? He was burning the grain of the Philistines. What is he doing now? He has to grind the grain of the Philistines. That's what sin does. Sin blinds, sin binds, and sin grinds away at your soul, away at your spirit, away at your relationship with God. It's a slow drift. See, sin, we need to stop viewing it as the do's and don'ts, as the list of requirements and the list of things that we're not allowed to do, and start to look at sin as a thing that will drift us away from God, that will damage our relationship with God. We need to cultivate this relationship with God. It says, but his hair began to grow back after it had been shaved, of course. It goes to tell you that both the Philistines and Samson really thought the strength came from the hair, from some sort of magical emotion. But once we do this, he won't have it anymore. Well, his hair began to grow back. And as funny as this might seem, I see this and I see like God restoration to this, God's grace to this. You guys know this. You can shave and the hair comes back. And you can shave and the hair comes back. Some of you girls know this too. Your armpits, your legs, I don't know what kind of stuff. The hair always comes back. You know, Lamentations chapter 3 says that because of God's great love, we are not consumed, for his mercy is renewed every morning. Man, Samson messed up. You're bad. He's supposed to save Israel. He's supposed to save his people. And he can't even save himself. And yet God has grace on him. Why? God will just leave him be. He doesn't want anything to do with you, obviously. You know what the difficult thing about Samson's life is? In Hebrews chapter 11, the Hall of Fame of faith, Samson comes up. How could he look at his life? We've got nothing good to say of him. He's wasted his life. He's wasted his gifts, his talents. He doesn't care about God. How can he be in the Hall of Fame of faith? How can he be spoken about a good person? Well, it goes on to say in Hebrews 11, around verse 32 or 33, I think, that he is a proof of those who in weakness were made strong. See, Samson isn't in the Hall of Fame of faith because of all the times he was strong. Samson is in the Hall of Fame of faith because of when he was weak. Then he was at his strongest. Although sin blinded him and binded him and forced him to grind, it says that his hair began to grow back. And as crazy and funny as much of a L'Oreal commercial as this might seem like, it's a picture of God's grace on him. It's a picture of God's grace on us. And it says that they bring him out and they want to make a spectacle out of him. They say, bring him out so he can entertain us. And there they go, leading blind Samson out, just holes in his eyes because they gouged him out. Just a weak, frail man, his hair beginning to grow back, a little bushy. And then they make him, hey, dance for us, Samson. Hey, do a trick for us, Samson. And Samson tells the guy leading him out, hey, put me between the two pillars that support the temple so I can lean on them. And the guy leading him says, okay. Nobody thinks he's strong anymore. You know, God left you. Why would he come back? Isn't that what the devil says? God left you once. Why would he come back? Why would God want anything to do with you? Why would God listen to your prayers? You know your past. You know your mistakes. You know what kind of week you had. Why would you want to go to church on Sunday morning? You know what you did on Saturday night. And yet, we see that for only the second time in his life, Samson prays. And for the first time in his life, at least that we know of, he prays a prayer that is not so selfish. Many people have criticized this prayer. He says here in verse 28, he called out to the Lord, Lord God, please remember me. Strengthen me, God, just once more. With one act of vengeance, let me pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Some people say, man, look at Samson, he never changed. Look at Samson, he was always the same. And I want to say that too. But then I turn to Hebrews 11 and I see that he's recorded there. Reconcile the two. How do I reconcile this tension? Well, I have to put myself in Samson's shoes. And I have to think the way he would have thought in moments of low and failure and doubt. That's the kind of prayer I would pray. God, remember me. God, don't forget about me. God, please, don't be finished with me yet. And I was praying that this morning over there on the couch. I broke down, God, you're not done with me. Please, don't tell me you're done with me. This isn't it, God. Keep working in me. Keep working in me. He says, Lord, remember me. Strengthen me, God, once more. You see what happened here? It's very subtle, but don't miss it. For the first time in Samson's life, he realizes that his strength came from God and not from himself. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame of Faith. Strengthen me, God, once more. Once more means that he realizes now, all along it's been you who allowed me to get to this point. All along it's been you who's been there. All along it's been you, God, not me. And a lot of us have to reach this point. Hopefully we don't have to go through this blinding and binding and grinding effects of sin like Samson did. But if we could cry out, God, don't forget me. Just one more time, God. Just empower me. It says, with one act of vengeance, let me pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars supporting the temple and leaned against them, one on his right hand and one on his left. Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. He pushed with all his might, and the temple fell on the leaders and all the people in it. And the dead he killed at his death were more than those he killed in his life. He accomplished more in his death than he ever did in his life. Was his life wasted? I don't think so. Wasted a lot of time. But at the end, God still came through. At the end, God still delivered. At the end, God still was there. And it leads me to my main point for this morning, and it's this. Sin may be a slow fade away from God, but grace brings us back in an instant. Grace brings us back in an instant. You guys remember the story of Jesus on the cross? And there was 2 thieves there, and one of them had wasted his life. And many would probably look at him and say, he wasted his life, nothing good came out of it. And yet, in his final hours, on the cross next to Jesus, he said, Jesus, remember me. Sound familiar? Sound like a familiar prayer? Remember me. And Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. We can spend drifting away years and years and years. But grace allows us to enter back into the blessing, into the presence of God in an instant. This is why the Bible is so scandalous. This is why the gospel is so outrageous. That God would just let us back in. That God would just allow us to come back home. That there would be no penalty for it. As a matter of fact, that he would take it out on his own son. In Isaiah chapter 53, he would be pleased to crush him instead of you. Scandalous. It's crazy. And I was praying this morning and I said, God, no, there has to be something. Make me pay for something. This makes me uncomfortable. I don't understand it. I feel like you should be mad at me. I feel like you should have something against me. And yet the Word of God teaches me this crazy love, this scandalous grace that says that grace will bring me back because His Son already took it all on the cross. That I can be restored, that He takes away the shame, that He takes away the guilt, that He takes away the pain, that I can come before His throne room boldly, the Bible says. Boldly. But I know my track record. But I know my week. God says, yeah, but you know my son. You paid for it all. God's not mad at you. God doesn't regret saving you. He's not surprised when you messed up again. He's not like, I didn't think you were going to go this far, man. He knew all along. And we can drift away slowly and slowly. And you know what? That's you this morning. I just pray God to analyze my life. You know, I thought I had a pretty good week. And so I started looking at it from this point of view. Well, have I been slowly drifting away? Have I been excusing little things in my life? Because you might just look up and realize, how did I end up? So much time that I wasted. So much more that I could have done. Samson could have done so much more. And yet at the end of his life, God came through. Sin may be slow fade away from God, but grace is back in it. You know what? The story is not about Samson himself, and I'll finish with this. There's another man who also was betrayed by a friend. There's another man who also was bound and in shackles. There's another man who also was mocked and asked to perform in front of people. There's another man who also died with outstretched arms, and his name was Jesus. And Samson is supposed to be a picture of the greater deliverer. See, Samson is a picture that all the deliverance that we can do for ourselves is flawed, and it will not deliver us in the end. But ultimately came the ultimate deliverer, the ultimate judge, the ultimate savior, Jesus Christ. And even though Samson had to be made weak so that he could be made strong, Jesus left his strength and came into weakness, into his own creation, and mocked by his own people, by his own creation, and murdered by the very people he gave life to, and suffered for sins that were not his, and became the curse that was upon us. Galatians chapter 3 says, cursed are all those who hang on a tree. You hung on a tree lately? You have to pay for your sins? There was another man, his name was Jesus. That's what all this is pointing to. I just want to encourage us this morning. If you've been slowly drifting away, just come back to Him now. You don't need to, in an instant, just come back. It makes no sense. I know we want to put ourselves in this little box, in this little timeout, and say, God, okay, I want to go back, but I feel I have to go through this moment, through this time where you be mad at me, punish me, something, right? And then it will be good again. And God says, no, just come home. And you see story after story in the Bible of people who messed up and just come home. Hosea and Gomer, he goes and buys back his wife. He just come home. You see the prodigal coming home to his father. His father runs out to meet him. Just come home. Just come home. What are you waiting for? What do you need? Maybe I'm not that bad off. That's why this message is for somebody else. No, but you might be slowly drifting away. You really want to wait until you're all the way over there? Until you're about to hit a wall?